Thank you very much for the introduction. I guess we have a very long history with Luciano Pietronero, il presidente dell'Istituto Enrico Fermi, and with Vittorio Loreto, whom we learned, or as I knew already, is one of the most prominent PhD students of Luciano. We have this history in interdisciplinary research, which used to be in Europe a very complicated thing to do. As Luciano correctly pointed out, we have to deal with the kingdoms of university departments to bring them together. But I guess we managed, and we managed to bring physics into economics. We managed to bring physics into sustainable development. So we managed to bring this interdisciplinary thinking into European research, but also into national research funding programs. As Luciano also correctly pointed out, it has always been very important also for science to be driven by industry. If you think of thermodynamics, which I always consider as one of the most beautiful theories in physics, it was driven by a very concrete idea, namely how can you make steam engines efficient? And now we have this problem of sustainability, which is one of the biggest problems we face. And here, as we have heard last year, complexity plays a role, and complexity, Giorgio Parisi got the Nobel Prize, a physicist who has been working all his life on very fundamental and abstract ideas on complexity, but people start to understand how there is this link between sustainability and complexity. Now, what we did in the Commission, we went one step further. If there is these kingdoms of disciplines in science, I think there is the religions of art versus science that we have in Europe. People working in art think about art as a separate space, and people working in science think about science as a separate space, almost in a religious way. So it's very difficult to bring these two very different ways of thinking together. And we tried exactly to do that with was already introduced with the STARTS program, which is essentially a program which brings together the arts and engineers, mainly in digital, in order to achieve something which we call art-driven innovation. So to create a feedback loop between science thinking, technology thinking, and art thinking. That is, I think, a very important aspect for the digital age. If artists work with digital, of course, the idea is that they help engineers find new ways of thinking, but on the other hand, also to create artworks, and because this is what artists do, right? And, but then if you create these artworks, and we have, for example, artworks that were created in the last STARTS programs that will be exhibited in autumn here at the Maxi Museum in Rome, these artworks also then should be used as a way to reflect on how digital changes via these artworks. So this is really this feedback loop that we try to manage via the STARTS program. Now, I'm not sure I'm supposed to talk about Florence in Rome, but if you go back to Renaissance, it was a very interesting mixture of different ingredients we had there. We had on the one hand artists, scientists, business people. We have also, in this we all know is very important, financiers like the Medicis. And this mixture of these different things brought together, these different ingredients, brought about what I would call is a very important aspect of Italy and still is the Renaissance movement. Now, what we're trying to do with STARTS in a new project that we developed together with the European Parliament is the so-called STARTS regional centers. It would be a bit too ambitious to say this is reinventing Renaissance, but the idea is that in these STARTS regional centers, we bring together artists, scientists, engineers, and also foundations in order to think about sustainable development on the regional level. And I think this is a very important aspect. It goes back to what I said earlier. Science is driven by challenges, and these challenges we face today is sustainability. And so have this renaissance thinking, this bringing together, this nurturing between different ways of thinking on a regional level, I think is very important. And this is why we have these STARTS regional centers that we will fund in the next couple of years and where we already started. Now, if I see Kitano-san, he mentioned that the reason why Sony CSL is here in Rome is in particular because Rome is culture-driven, and he wanted these links between European culture and engineering and sustainable development. This is what I think is something which distinguishes us from China and US, this idea that innovation should be culture and value-driven. And this is something we also put forward in now a new STARTS program that is STARTS International, where we try to bring this thinking outside Europe as an opposition to this idea of the dominant idea we have these days of innovation that is driven by the way Chinese and Americans do it. So I think it is always crucial to bring these different skills together, and I think centers like Sony CSL are perfectly placed to do so. We worked already with Sony CSL in Paris, but I think Sony CSL in Rome will be even more important because it really focuses on these UN sustainability goals that we think are very important to put forward. Let me make a last remark. The link that I see between STARTS and Bauhaus, because Bauhaus, the 20th century Bauhaus, has always been a guide for me in developing STARTS. And as you know, in the European Commission, the President, Ursula von der Leyen, has now launched a new European Bauhaus, which is the idea of bringing the arts and engineering together for sustainable development. And I think this is a very important aspect. And I think, again, here we see a lot of links between what Sony CSL is doing here in Rome and what we want to do in the Commission. The Bauhaus explored how new technologies change our lives. The industrial age changed our life beginning of the 20th century, and I think how the digital changes our lives in the beginning of the 21st century. So the new European Bauhaus is certainly digital-driven, but the important ingredient will always be the arts. I think I stop here and just want to emphasize again how I see a lot of synergies between what you are doing here in Rome and what we are trying to do, on the one hand in STARTS, on the other hand with the new European Bauhaus in the European Union. Thank you very much.